Hello and welcome to Films and That, the show where we talk about films that usually don't get talked about. My name's Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
And Sam, what are we looking at today?
Bonjour, we should have started, because we're looking at Napoleon by Abel Gance. Directed by French filmmaker Abel Gance and starring Abel Gance as the man himself, Napoleon charts the early career of the famous general, boasting revolutionary techniques of the time.
Okay, the reason that we are looking at this film at the moment is because it's recently been re-released.
Yes.
By the BFI. If you look at the cover, nice BFI logo there. This is quite a nice box actually. Get a little booklet.
3-disc set.
What's on the other? Oh right, yeah, Act 1.
Yeah, it's a long film, as you'll soon discover. It was my idea, wasn't it, Rob?
Yes.
BFI website on Facebook put, what big release of DVD should we have next? And I was the only one to put Napoleon, please, because I wanted to see it on DVD for a long time.
So it's all your fault.
Two weeks later, I kid you not, they announced that they were re-releasing it.
The guy who's the mastermind behind the restoration of it has been planning it for quite a long time.
Kevin Brownlow has been planning it for about 50 years.
But I saw the most appalling version of it. Shots were in the wrong place, titles were in the wrong place, scenes were missing, it made no sense.
In other words, it was never really seen as intended.
Exhibitors hated it.
Abel Gance he saw it almost as he had some sort of vision. He wanted to turn this film as some sort of great cultural artifact, and he actually mentioned wanting to resurrect the general himself. So he had a lot invested in this film. You know, it was going to be his biggest film. Gance's initial intention was to make 6 films, I think it was the intention. The money ran out very early on. Very, very early on. I'm not sure if this film actually was supposed to be 2 films or not, which might make sense. It's 2 films rolled into one, or he was going to have 6 5-hour films, which just sounds insane. But yeah, he basically ran out of money, so it never got, the whole thing never got completed.
But it's a very ambitious film, which is probably why he ran out of money. There's lots of big battle sequences.
Lots of everything. There's you can laugh at some of the stuff he does in it, but honestly, for the time, that was some of the most extraordinary techniques available to a silent film director. Honestly, the people who would have seen it would have been blown away by what they would have seen at the time. There wasn't a lot of CGI to go around. But
things like the movement of the camera, which is quite common to us now, but there's a horse chase sequence. The camera must be mounted on a car or a vehicle of some sort.
Yeah, but that was an unusual technique to use back then. In fact, actually, looking at some behind-the-scenes stuff. Honestly, there was some behind-the-scenes stuff, oddly, in silent. But he actually used techniques that had been never used before. He was like having a camera on a wire. He did that. Certain dolly, I assume you probably had dolly tracks before then, but he was using all sorts of dolly tracks going down the stairs and things like this, just stuff that just never been seen before, including a scene on the sea at one point.
Yeah.
I assume that there's model shots there as well, but there are scenes with Abel Gance appears to be, surrounded by the sea.
So the film follows Napoleon's life. It starts off when he's a child in a boarding school, and there's a snowball fight to begin with when he shows his technical
military prowess,
military mind. Yeah,
they jump right in with the "he's a genius," plot line.
Yeah.
From the word go.
It's meant to follow his life as he becomes more and more successful and wins battles and things like that. But it also follows his personal life, and it's not a straight-up biopic. I think one of the most interesting things for me watching it was how the characters are handled. The main actor is incredibly, he's got such a screen presence, he just commands the screen when he's on it.
I have a friend who described Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight as just sort of going away from it saying, I kind of wish he was just in it more. And that was how I felt about Dieudonne as Napoleon. Sort of every time he's on screen, I'm almost starting to lose interest. Off screen, rather. Did I say on screen? Off screen. He really does have an amazing presence, especially considering he can't talk.
He's got this striking features, and he's always scowling, and he's just a very striking character.
Everything, and about his body movements as well. I think everything about the performance is quite impressive. I think he's certainly one of the reasons why the film is a success. I found the film to be quite accessible, even though I didn't know a lot of the French Revolution stuff. Because it is quite action-packed. Clearly, Abel Gance was a filmmaker who was making this film for everyone, you know. But having said that, the French Revolution stuff, you know, it does go over my head a bit because I'm not well versed in that part of history. And were you?
No, it's such a big part of the film. It's not just a backdrop for Napoleon, is it? It even kind of veers away from Napoleon's life to the characters of like Robespierre and people like that, to the other characters. It assumes you're kind of well versed in French history, and it doesn't explain any of this to you. It just assumes that you know it.
It really stands out. I don't know if that's just an issue with silent films at the time they just weren't thinking so much about international audiences. In fact, it simply introduces Marat, Danton and Robespierre as the three gods of the revolution. It doesn't even, I don't think it even mentions the word Jacobin. If you had no idea about that period, you know, you're just something, these are just guys, right? Who are they? You know, they're quite interesting caricatures, though, aren't they?
They're basically Batman villains. They're very pronounced, like you said. But they've all got their individual characters, and it's very easy with silent cinema to sometimes everyone looks the same. You can't hear them, so you can't differentiate between two people. But with this, each of them had a look, didn't they?
Yeah, almost as mad as something like Nosferatu. They're very odd-looking people, you know, with a lot of weird makeup and quite distinctive looks. You know, even the way they sort of stand.
We haven't actually mentioned that it's 7 hours long.
It's 5 hours long.
It's quite long.
It feels 7 hours, but it is 5 hours long.
It's not. It's longer than that.
It's not. It's 5 hours, honestly.
Okay. Let's have a look.
Don't embarrass yourself.
I don't know. I can't work that out.
Okay. It is 5 hours long.
Okay. I wasn't having any trouble watching the rest of it. It's quite a long film, but I was kind of enjoying most of it. And there's a bit towards the end that was just dragged quite a lot. Not the last hour, the hour before that.
I feel exactly the same way. There's some other character. She's a very minor character in the film, but she seems to get an awful lot of screen time, even so. Apparently she worships Napoleon and she loves him to the point where she's literally praying in front of a figurine of Napoleon. And I found it to be the least interesting part of the film, if I'm honest.
Same, and there's a strange bit when he goes into a prison and there's loads of like ladies with their boobs out. What was that about?
That was a party they were having
for the prisoners.
Post Reign of Terror, sort of mocking, you know, the fact that they were in prison and people were guillotined and that. And it was a very hedonistic party.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah, actually, it says here, mild battle violence, parental guidance, right? But they don't mention the tits.
Is that an official BBFC guideline? Contains tits. I found it very odd that it was in that at all. Like, I would have thought it was less acceptable to have boobs in films at that point in time.
French, isn't it?
It's French.
It's almost a propaganda film. Well, I might go so far. It is a propaganda film, you know. I imagine, you know, it's probably even more significant if you are French. There are some detractions, but it is mainly a very patriotic film. All the way up to the point of the final sequence.
There is an amazing tryopic ending where it was filmed with 3 cameras side by side. It really does widen the screen. I don't know what the standard kind of aspect ratio was at the time, but I mean the rest of the film is kind of 4:3. Kind of very square image, but putting the 3 images next to each other creates a very wide image, which is how we normally see.
2:7 maybe.
You just
what you would call, I don't know what the aspect ratio is, but very wide.
But I mean, that's how we normally see. That's how humans see. We see in a landscape image, so it pushes everything out to the side. You see massive wide vistas and the troops moving through it. It's quite an interesting thing, and he also plays around with so the middle image would show something, and then the left image would show something else, and the right image would show something else.
Yeah, it starts off, it's just a little montage sequence showing the Napoleon's troops intended to invade Italy, which is the final climax of the film. It's sort of like the eve of battle. And we do get a bit of a battle scene, but it's all done in montage. And then it all kind of mixes in as it becomes sort of just a montage. It almost goes through what you've already seen, doesn't it? Throughout the whole film. It's just different images, and then sort of intellectual montage. We've got like images of eagles to represent Napoleon, all happening at once, all coming together with this like building up this big climax to eventually the three screens are blue, white and red, the tricolour French flag, and that's sort of like the final image of the film, that we take away with us.
That's very triumphant. Do you think that was the intention, to show the flag on the end, or did he just go, hang on a minute?
I'm convinced that it wasn't going to be like that at all.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that he realised he was running out of stock, running out of time and money. He just thought, right, I've just got this one film, I've got to end it on something big. And I think he came up with that. That might not be true at all. But I kind of, it's such a big triumphant ending.
Yeah.
It all comes together that you just feel like that would be what he would have had on the final film.
So Sam, what did you think of Napoleon?
I liked it a bit too much, I think. I think I've got to a point now where I'm overlooking its flaws, and it does have flaws. I'd go so far as to say it's probably one of my favourite films ever. Not top 10, but still up there. So obviously I really like it a lot. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible piece of work.
So you appreciate it then.
I appreciate it. I think it does have flaws, definitely too long. There's some bits which just don't need to be in there, that are just about his personal life, and the woman that's obsessed with him just doesn't need to be in there. Some strange choices.
That was a strange choice, yeah.
But I think you get that whenever a director is that creative, because they are willing to experiment with certain things, like the tinting and like with the montage that we've talked about. They are willing to take the risks and put that in there, and then some work and some don't. And I think the bits that do work incredibly well. Have you ever seen the cut version? I wonder what that's like.
No, I know Coppola has released a cut version. I haven't seen that. I kind of don't want to now. It might spoil it for me if I watch that.
Yeah.
I think that as far as I know, this is the most complete version we're going to get. Unless they find something in a warehouse somewhere, which they probably won't, but they might.
Okay, that's it for this time on Films on That. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Au revoir.
Is that shirt inside out?
Oh my God, Rob, I think you're right. Is it really noticeable on camera?
No, it's just because I noticed the label at the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're just going to have to leave. We're going to have to run with it now, I'm afraid. You better cut that out.
I'm going to put it in at the end.
No, cut it out. What happened there?
Don't know. I think he might have gone to sleep.
What?